I'm Brandon Clark. This is my co-host Swall Hall, and today we're meeting on Uncommon Grounds. And I want to start the episode by saying Happy New Year because I
Woohoo!
watched our last episode, Swall, and for the first time on any holiday episode we ever did, neither of us said Merry Christmas or Happy
Oh
Holidays
no.
at any part of it. So we're not making that mistake again. Happy New
No.
Year's off the rip. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. The episode is kind of themed about looking back on the year or looking forward since it is New Year's Eve. We're going to do story of the year. Me and Swall are both taking one story we feel like was the biggest one. It could have been something we covered on the podcast, could have been something we didn't. We'll see what they are, and we'll talk about them a little bit here. Then we have a 2026 wish list, so to speak, a couple things that each of us would like to see happen in 2026. Just on our wish list, pretty true to the name. And then we're going to talk about the reasons why each of us converted. For those who maybe don't know, we have kind of like alternate
Switch
stories.
places, yeah.
Yeah, where Law was atheist at first and then is now Catholic. I wasn't Catholic, but I was religious. I was a Christian, and now I'm atheist. So we'll explain, main reasons that led us to that kind of switch, see where we agree, disagree, what happens from that. And then we're going to debate transgender. Should we validate, affirm, whatever word you want to use? What's the right thing to do with the transgender community? So stay tuned for that. Those debates always get spicy between me and Swa. So to start, story of the year. For me, this was pretty easy. It's the genocide in Gaza. I think for the second year running, I would have said it's the genocide in Gaza. I think genocide's a pretty important thing. It's obviously being carried out by Israel. It's obviously been enabled by the US through Trump's presidency, through Biden's presidency. So it's a bipartisan genocide. As of right now, per OSHA, which is through the UN, the confirmed death toll, 69,513. Important to note, this is likely vastly undercounted, as this is only people who have been in the hospital that they can confirm. There's tens of thousands of people missing, presumed dead, lost under the rubble. The Lancet, for consideration, estimates it to be closer to 180,000 for the death toll. And then the last thing I want to put in before we can discuss, since Trump signed the ceasefire deal that has largely left the Western world stopping talking about this, Israel has violated the ceasefire terms almost 100 times. They've done it literally almost every day since the ceasefire was signed, and over 400 Palestinians have died since the ceasefire. So still going on. Oh, last thing, I think it's over 75% of Gaza is decimated, 93% of schools. There's not a fully functioning hospital. So like the damage is pretty pertinent. It's still being enabled by the US. To me, this is the story of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to bring up. I thought about that one as well. And honestly, that last one of the last things you said there about the West kind of moving on is the reason that I didn't pick it. It was because I was like, I don't actually know where we're at anymore. Like since the ceasefire, I was like, I don't actually know what's going on, and I don't want to bring it up if because I didn't want to say like that. I would have said, oh, the ceasefire, like that's the biggest story, like it finally ended. But I was like, did it? I don't actually know because we haven't really talked about it on the show recently, and also I just haven't seen it in the headlines. So yeah, that's a excellent point. Obviously a lot of people affected. My heart goes out and is hurting every time I hear any number of deaths, let alone in the six digits of people. The only thing I have seen recently has been, it wasn't Trump, but it was somebody in his squad of goons talking about the whole resort thing again. I saw that come up on my timeline again recently, that they were talking about, the whole turning it into a luscious resort and redeeming the area or whatever. That's like the only thing I have seen recently. So yeah.
Which is kind of crazy that, there's been violations of this ceasefire. There's no calls from Trump like, hey, like, get your shit together. None of that. It's
Right.
just Trump resort, the land, so nice. Like, to me, what, like, this year, right? I would say, obviously, I think the first year, the big story was the genocide, obviously. To me, almost, it's hard to say that if it's the killing or the way that it seems the West has just moved on, despite the fact that it's still going on. What do you think is the bigger story for you? The fact that it's still going on, or that the West is seemingly doesn't care because it's still going on so long?
I mean, for me, it's gonna be very close, but I'm gonna lean towards the killing just because I'm a pro-lifer. I care about life significantly. It's my number one like principle. And so any loss of life is going to be absolutely devastating to me. I thought about bringing up the Nigerian situation for one of the biggest stories. I thought about Russia, Ukraine. That's still going on, and that's been half my life at this point, if I think. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I thought about the boats situation. There's so many deaths happening, and all of those are significant. And so yeah, for me, the fact that like obviously we could say, oh, it's still going, but like looking at the bigger picture, it's still going for like 100 years almost, really, if we want to be technical about it. And so yeah, I mean the ceasefire is huge. Obviously, they're breaking it in part. I don't know all the details of that. And that sucks, obviously, and we don't want that to be happening. But I hope that 2026, and we'll probably get into that in the next one, can at least bring a more finality to this situation, at least temporarily,
Yeah.
just so the
And
killing can stop.
the last thing I want to touch on before you give yours, do you, and I don't remember because we cover these stories and with too many stories to remember what your exact opinion was. I don't remember where you were at on aid to Israel. And then going forward with them violating the ceasefire, with this still going on, are you now at the point where like, should we still be sending offensive weapons? Should we still be sending weapons, period? Should we still be sending aid, period? Like, where are you kind of on that? And then where will you be if it continues this way?
So I'm gonna say this based on not knowing how politics work, like in like boots on the ground
Yeah.
wise. So like I don't really know. I know there are allies, so I don't really know like treaty wise or like I don't know contract. I don't really know how that works. I don't know if there's specific things we have to do in
Mhm.
order for them to like not that they would necessarily turn against us, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. So putting all of that aside, just like morally, no, we shouldn't be sending them anything. We should be holding it over carrot stick situation and saying if you want this money, you gotta behave just like you would with a child because they're acting like children. I mean, they're acting like belligerent children with machine guns. So like, I wouldn't give them a dime if it was up to me. But again, I don't really know. I'm not gonna make some statement and then be an idiot because like we signed the something something treaty
Right.
of '82 and we have to do it for 25 years or else they'll
Hey,
blow us. Like I don't know.
that doesn't
Uh,
matter. Look at Trump with Ukraine. We signed the Budapest memorandums and he said,
true,
get lost.
true.
But yeah, no, just quickly to my knowledge, we don't have an agreement with them. Mostly it's geopolitical like strategy
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Arab nations are typically antithetical to our wants and beliefs. And then
sure.
obviously Israel in that location is surrounded by them. So we kind of give them weapons.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand why we value Israel so much because for all of their faults, they're the closest thing to an America over there.
And I do
It's
think
just
there is value there, to be
like,
clear. I'm not like as
yeah,
far like destroy Israel, let's like
no,
sweep it
no,
north. But
yeah,
I don't think we should be sending them money if they're doing genocide.
yes.
Yeah.
And I've been hesitant to use the G word, but even genocide aside, war crimes is obvious.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't support that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So not too much uncommon ground there. You can go ahead with what do you think the story of 2025 was?
So I thought about this for a while. Like I said,
I did
I
too.
thought of several big stories of wars and stuff like that, but I was trying to think of something that seemed to like be in the zeitgeist like for a while and to affect a lot of people. And then, of course, as a Catholic, one thing stuck out to me, which was the death of Pope Francis, the conclave, and the election of the next pope, mainly because there's 1.4 billion Catholics. So, as far as affecting people on the worldwide stage, it at least affects 1.4 billion. But as I'm sure you saw, I mean, we talked about it on this show, but also just like scrolling on social medias and stuff, secular people were getting interested in the tea. Everybody wanted to know, especially once they found out he was an American. Like it really just seemed to be like one of those everyone was aware of this happening and the world stood still kind of things. And so it affected the most people spiritually and culturally. Um, and so, yeah, I thought that was a big leadership shift on the world stage. Obviously, he's a monarch. He's a dignitary. They did the whole. I think Trump and Vance and everybody went to the. coronation and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think that that was our like biggest, just in your face, everyone talked about it story. Obviously, not like the saddest story or anything like that. I mean, it is sad somebody died, but um, going from the Francis pontificate, which had a big focus on the poor and yeah, the ecology of the world. He talked a lot about climate change, and he talked a lot about the LGBT community and making sure that they feel loved and welcome in the church and stuff like that. Obviously, there was a lot riding on this next conclave and this next election of what direction is the church going to go in? Are they going to continue in the way of Francis? Are they going to go super rad trad traditional and go crazy? And as we've seen so far in the Leo pontificate, is a little bit of both. So there was a big situation with Pope Leo blessing a giant chunk of ice from Antarctica at a climate change summit, and a lot of the rad trads and then anybody who's not Catholic used it as a opportunity to make fun of us. But as anybody who knows even the littlest bit about Catholics know, we have holy water. So blessing ice is not like that's just also holy water. It's just frozen. So there's nothing weird going on there. But so that was kind of a signal that he's going to at least continue somewhat in the same way that Francis did. But then he's been wearing like more of the traditional vestments, and he's been doing the mass in Latin, and so he's kind of catering to both sides. And if this was regular politics and he had to like campaign, he'd sort of be a great unifier type of vibe. And that's kind of what the some of the bishops talked about when they came out of the conclave, is somebody who could hopefully keep the left and the right side of the Catholic Church from schisming. And so I think that that has been our biggest story so far. So
Yeah, so I obviously don't know a lot about the goings on. So
right.
I mostly have questions. First, has he broke from was Leo was the last pope? Has he broke from him in any big way that's like
Oh,
people are like,
Francis was the last pope. Leo's the current, but yeah,
okay,
continue.
got him backwards. Yeah, sorry. Francis, has he broke from Francis like in any dramatic way, or where it was like, Francis was moving it this way and now Leo's like, actually we're gonna go the other way, or has it been mostly, kind of
Um, Yeah, I think it's been mostly consistent, other than bringing back a lot of the traditional stuff. Like Francis, there's the Papal Palace, which it sounds all gaudy and crazy by the name, but it's like if you saw pictures of it, it's nothing like. I mean,
yeah.
these buildings are super old, so it's not like this is like some state of the art bajillionaire mansion in LA. Like it's not like that. But Francis refused to live there and lived in the hotel that is attached to the Vatican for like modesty reasons. And a lot of people, I understood his heart and the intent, but a lot of people took it as like more like for show than like actual humility.
Yeah.
And so like stuff like that, he hasn't been doing. Like he is living in the papal palace. He's wearing the right vestments. He's saying the mass in Latin. So on those on like faith and traditional stuff, he's been separating himself from Francis, but on like upholding his doctor not doctrines, but like social teachings, he hasn't said anything to me that has been like clear against that.
And when was it that he was chosen, or whatever the correct term would be?
So the conclave was in May, and I think it would have been probably around May 9th or whatever
So
that
he's
he
had
actually,
more than half the year as
yeah, yeah,
so
and he hasn't done.
what are people's thoughts so far on him? Are they, happy that he was the guy? Or are they starting to regret? Or like where's the Catholic
So
at?
again, it's going to depend on, are you a rad trad, a regular Catholic, a um, Easter and Christmas Catholic? Like, what kind of Catholic are you? The rad trads are not thrilled with him because a lot of stuff has been happening under his watch that he hasn't seemed to say anything about. Like, for instance, there was like of course, you wouldn't have a problem with this, but there was a like LGBT pilgrimage, sort of, I guess we could call it a parade, into St. Peter's Basilica, where they were holding up a rainbow cross and all of this stuff. A lot of people were upset about that. There was a bishop recently who, I'm trying to remember what the art was this time around. I want to say it was like Jesus on the cross with like I'm going to make up the animal with like a rat head or something, and he called it like beautiful art and had it hanging in his church. And then the same bishop, I guess, had like this big piece of art of like a pig heart inside of a condom hanging over the altar, and that bishop hasn't been like defrocked or removed from his office or anything, or even chastised by the pope. So a lot of the rad trads are just upset about him not making comments about that. And then some of them are upset about his comments about like immigration, and they don't think that he's been clear enough on that.
So what are your
Whereas
thoughts 7 months
yeah,
out?
whereas me as a, in my opinion, like a just a regular Catholic who believes everything that we're taught in the Catholic Church, I think he's been great so far. There is stuff like that, not the immigration stuff, but like the weird pig heart and the LGBT. Like, yes, would I prefer for him to do something about those things? Of course, I would. Um, but I think that his teachings on immigration have been excellent. I think he's right on the money, and so is the U.S. Conference of Bishops. Human dignity of the person, and that nobody's saying that U.S. has to have open borders. Nobody's saying that. Not even on the left. Like nobody has that opinion really. But we do have the opinion of like, treat people with respect, treat people with dignity. If they are detained, don't bar them from the sacraments. They should be allowed to have confession. They should be allowed to absolve themselves. And then when it comes to stuff like kids who were brought here at like age 1, grew up here their whole lives. They were brought here by their parents of no fault of their own, have been good citizens, have getting an education, have jobs, or married with families, whatever. Probably shouldn't be deporting those people. Doesn't really make that much sense. I think that that's a decent take. And then I'm glad to see from a traditional side, me and my family, we tried to connect ourselves to the traditions of the past. So we try to do like we're doing 12 days of Christmas. I'm saying Merry Christmas for all 12 days since the 25th. I'll be saying it to the 6th because that's how it used to be traditionally. So I like that he's doing stuff like that. We're bringing back the vestments, as I mentioned, the Latin masses. Pope Francis moved the Christmas Eve vigil, I think, to like 7 p.m. instead of midnight. Leo moved it to like 11 p.m. So that it crosses over into Christmas Day proper, the way it used to be. So stuff like that. It's only 6 months, and people say the church moving quickly is like 100 years. So, I mean, with 2,000 years of an institution, um, judging somebody off of 6 months is kind of stupid. So I don't have to like, oh my gosh, he's the greatest pope ever, or he sucks. I don't really have a strong opinion. I think he's doing fine, and we'll see what the rest of the pontificate holds. He's in his like 60s or maybe I think late 60s, so he could be pope for another 20 years. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't have anything else. So if you don't,
Yeah.
we can move on to the 2026 wish list.
Yeah, so moving on to the wish list, I just kind of wanted to talk about stuff that we wanted to see happen, whether that is specific policies or specific outcomes, like with any wars or anything like that. If we wanted to, it could be anything as crazy or as likely as possible. So for me, I had 3 wishes. Do you think we should do uh,
Let's just do
me
all
one,
three,
you? Okay, all
and
three.
we'll talk since we'll do one for one for the next section. So
Okay, cool. So for mine, I had legalizing marijuana and then taxing the crap out of it responsibly. So as we've seen this year, Trump has already made some moves of moving the schedule for which marijuana is under, which is a move in the right direction. I would like to see a national um, legalization, whether that is like highly regulated and you have to, I don't know, get a card or whatever you have to do. I'm not really picky about that. Even if it was just like legally medical, that would be a big step in the right direction. So I'd like to see that. And then this is something recently that I just came to discover. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but I found out about a party called the American Solidarity Party. And so one of my things would be for more visibility and more people joining that party. I think that they hold legitimately almost every single view that I hold. And so I think that they would do the best for the common good. And then my third thing was an end to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. One, it's insane that it's been going on so long. Two, it's insane that Trump is so buddy buddy with Putin. And three, the Eastern Orthodox Christians being killed in Ukraine and Russia. And I think even I might be misquoting, but I think that the one of the patriarchs of the Russian Orthodox Church even said like you get an indulgence or like your sins are forgiven for killing Ukrainians, which is insane to me. And so
Sounds like
yeah,
shit they said during the Crusades.
my theme for 2026 is basically I want policies that strengthen the family, strengthen the individual, protect human dignity, and that we stop pretending that either the market or the state is God and is going to solve all of our problems. So, yeah.
Yeah, so just to touch on all of them, marijuana legalization, obviously we agree. I don't think it should be, I think whether we tax it or not, it should probably be legal just because it causes more problems being illegal than not. It would be similar to, I think, if we made alcohol illegal, where like even if you could, I think the end goal of making alcohol illegal is more justifiable than marijuana because like obviously more people
Mhm.
die from alcohol and things, but even then, like we saw how dangerous like prohibition and things were. So like I think the same is true with marijuana where there's like unnecessary harm that's being caused by something that should just be legal. It's like a personal choice. But yeah, then also when you add in like the revenue possibilities from taxing it, it's like a no-brainer almost. Like why aren't we doing it? Then American Solidarity Party, never heard of it. If they agree with every one of your beliefs, I'm sorry, brother, but I probably hope they get destroyed and don't get any visibility. And then you said the end of Russia, Ukraine, which I agree. I think it's genocide. I think that is plausible. There's a case against Putin in the ICJ, namely or specifically because he is transferring Ukrainian children to Russian territories, which is like, I think that of the five things you can do to constitute genocide, I think that that is the one that makes for the strongest case because there's no other, like, you know, like killing members of the group is one, but that could happen in war, right? Causing like distress, like physical or mental stress, that could happen just in war. Like you're bombing cities, trying to take out your enemy. PTSD is going to be a consequence, right?
Right.
Transferring children from one ethnic group to yours, there's no reason you do that unless you're
No,
trying to erode that ethnic group. So it's like, to me, Russia's so far in the wrong that it's crazy to me that there's people in this country that are
I
like
agree. 1,000%.
pro-Russia. And so, yeah, that's the big one. I was going to put that on mine too, but then I knew you were going to, so I didn't. But yeah, we're in full agreement there for sure.
Yeah, with the Russia thing, like it is crazy that there's people who are pro Russia, but it's even crazy to me that there are people who are like, we don't need to be like. I saw somebody else, and say what you want about Zelensky, whatever your opinion is of the guy, sure, whatever. But they were like Zelensky and his goons. I'm like, bro, like, what do you mean his goons? Do you mean the people defending their sovereign nation?
Yeah.
Like, do they engage in some goonish behavior? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really there. I don't know what's going on, but like, bro, like, I just don't understand how. Oh, we're sending them too much money. How long is this going to go on? Like, a country invaded another country and wants to wipe it off the map in modern history, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I don't understand. I don't understand being chill with that at all. I don't give a crap how many dollars it costs to stop that.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? But
Yeah.
that's just me.
That's me too. It's like what I always want to ask those people, like, what should your tax dollars go towards then? If
Right.
not like something like
And I get if you're like now this I would understand like if we only have $5, the first of those $5 needs to go to like making sure there's no homeless Americans, making sure like, but they don't even want that. That's the thing.
yeah,
Like
I don't know if I would agree with that.
if they wanted like universal health care and they wanted things that were like gonna save lives
Yeah.
here and they were like our tax dollars should help people here first. I get the principle, like, you know, order of love. That makes sense to me. But they don't want that. And then they also don't want to help the other
I get that, and
countries.
I do think you're coming from a stronger position if that's your position. But even then, I've thought of this recently, and I think I still disagree that why should we place more of like this arbitrary value just because Americans, just because oh you roll of the dice were born in our country? I agree on some level, like well should we care if Ukrainians have healthcare or Americans? Yeah, but if we're talking should we care if Americans have healthcare or if Ukrainian children are being genocided? I think the genocide takes priority to the Americans there, but that's just me. And I, like you said, I understand why that would be a less popular position among many people. But I think humanity's humanity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would somewhat agree. I would think I would rather just phrase it like, and you would probably agree, it's not one or the other anyways. Like that's a
Yeah,
false
yeah,
dilemma.
yeah,
It would more be like, let's do both of these at the same
exactly.
time.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah,
hear yours.
completely agree. Mine, I try to go more pragmatic with mine, things that I thought might actually be possible, and then something I definitely don't want to happen. So my first one is Democrat majority in the House. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion by polling and like predictions, but I think it's necessary for oversight. The House does oversight on the president. It's one of the main checks and balances, and it hasn't been happening currently. Trump has been getting given like political donations, and then he's like pardoning people. He's pardoned numerous people who have been convicted of fraud. There was a guy who had to pay back $12 million in fraud to the Americans he had defrauded. Trump hand waved that, no longer has to make those payments, the restitution, none of that. The charge is gone. And it was either the day or like the week after the guy sent him $1 million political donation. These are things like Tom Homan is a guy in Trump's cabinet. He's on video taking $50,000 in a bag and saying, I will get you a job in the government. Trump hand waved that investigation, gone, said it was a political weaponization. So there's like, and then there's like corruption. There's the bombing of foreign nations we've talked about on the boats. He's not going to Congress to get approval. There's lots of bits of oversight that need to happen that I think only happen if Democrats get the House. So that's my number one. Second is the end to the genocide. Obviously, that being my big thing in 2025. I hope that it ends going into
The Gaza,
2026. Yeah,
the
in
Gaza,
Gaza.
yeah.
Ukraine too, as we talked about, but I didn't put that one in because I knew you would. This one I put in because I figured you wouldn't. I think that international pressure makes it plausible. I think that now it's the most plausible because most countries have turned against Israel in terms of like where they are on supporting this or not. Most Americans have. There's Jewish people within Israel who are protesting this. So I think that 2026 could be the year. Obviously, fingers crossed, I hope it is. 2025 should have been the year. 2024 should have been the year. 2023 should have been the year, right? And then my last one is, I guess, more of like a funny, kind of comical one, but something I really don't want to happen. Kamala Harris to not announce a presidential bid. Please, for the love of God, I really hope that Kamala Harris does not try to get the nomination
Oh
because I
no.
think it's going to mess up where the Democrats need to go by holding us back for a whole nother 4 years. And we're so bad at doing this. Like if you look at all our past elections, right? Joe Biden ran in 2008. He announced in 2012, but then didn't, or sorry, not 2012, 2016, but then didn't because Hillary was going to be the candidate. And then he comes in 2020. So like, if you look back, we've had like the same three candidates. It's Hillary, Biden, Bernie Sanders have been like the only three possibilities circling since Obama, right? And it's like, let's move on. Let's just move on. Those are my three things. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for the first one, I don't actually necessarily disagree. Um, as becoming Catholic or and whatnot, my views are less specifically the Republicans, or I was never a Republican anyways, but I'm not like, loyal to any particular side as much as particular views, and I don't agree with any fraud or anything immoral happening. So if the way to get that done is for the Democrats to have control of the House, that's fine. Obviously, I don't want like certain views being pushed and whatnot, but with Trump as the president, I don't know that that can happen anyways, regardless of who's in control of the House. So I think that that might be fine. I'm not going to take a strong stance on that one. And then what was the second one?
Genocide and
Genocide.
Gaza.
Okay, Gaza. Obviously, yeah, I want Gaza and Israel, or yeah, I want the Palestinian and Israel conflict to come to an end, like a real end. Obviously, um, even with the breakage, the uh, what do you call it? The ceasefire has been a step, even if a tiny baby step in the right direction. And like you said, international pressure. The important thing is for it to stay in the conversation. And unfortunately, the news cycle moves so fast that it's just not. And unfortunately, somewhat rightly, there are other travesties going on. Nigeria, we already talked about Russia, Ukraine. There's other
Sudan,
horrible,
Congo, Yemen.
exactly. There's other stuff that is going to be in the news and people are going to put their attention on, and that can detract from other ones and it just sucks, but obviously they all deserve attention, so it's hard to say like don't focus on the Nigerians, focus on the like focus on all of them. So I feel there. And then the last one is just hilarious to me. I don't know if she will or not, to be honest. She's been pretty out of the limelight recently, except for she did like some podcast thing about a book or something,
Yeah, she
or
was
I
a
forget what
book.
she dropped or something like
It was a
that.
book, yeah.
And she was being all like, she was like cussing and stuff, and people were like, oh,
I
but
think she's so annoying. I don't like Kamala Harris, and
me neither,
I
obviously,
was
but
so tired of like I want to say stumping. Stumping is not the word because I'm just a YouTuber, but like I was so tired of like running defense for her because
yeah,
like,
defending
oh
her.
my God, I hate her. But it's like I would defend anyone against Trump, to be clear. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the if I was in the Democrat shoes, I would definitely want them to pick somebody else. She's
yeah,
extremely unlikable.
yeah.
Not quite Hillary levels of unlikable, but damn near. Like
Yeah, it's
damn
close.
near.
It's
Like the
close.
only thing she has on Hillary is being a woman of color, and that's just only a certain subset of the people even care about that
Yeah.
when it comes to like politics. Because like you can be a woman or man of color and be a total tyrant. So like
And
that's
so
not really enough.
she almost definitely is going to run or explore. She's going to do an exploratory committee for sure because she didn't run for governor in California. And then she also said that she wasn't done in politics. And everyone thought she was going to run for governor in California. So I know
Right.
she's going to run it back. And
Do you
I'm so
think? Do you
sad.
think her and Newsom tag team?
I hope that Newsom doesn't include her in anything. Personally, I don't want to see her on the national level in politics at all. I hope that Newsom has so much steam that she deems it like not worth her time.
She drops out, or she doesn't
Yeah,
even get in there.
yeah, that's my hopes.
Who would you? And it's sort of off topic. Who? So obviously Newsom as pres. Who would you have as vice then?
Oh, I mean, it's like, am I talking like, are we talking pragmatically?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It'd have to be someone progressive. AOC. Throw AOC in there.
Is there is there age
Pragmatic.
for vice president too, or just for
You
president?
have to be able to serve as president, and I do think she's gonna be the age. I think that she turns 35
By
in
time
2028.
2020.
So
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah. So I don't know.
That would be
That'd
a
be a thought.
formidable.
Newsom
I
would
th-
have to. My thing with Newsom, I don't have like a specific name, but he has to pick someone progressive. I think
yeah,
signal someone to his right or like more moderate. It's game over.
yeah, because I don't think that he's perceived as like the same way AOC or Omar
Yeah.
or
His,
anybody or even like a Bernie, like he's not really seen as that.
yeah. His problem is that all moderates think that he's like the woke progressive liberal from California. All Republicans are going to like label him the woke communist from California.
Right.
But then actual progressives see him as more of a corporate guy. So like
Yeah.
that's the what he needs to shake. So
Yeah, I agree.
but yeah,
Cool.
we can move on to reasons why we converted. I'm sure people have been waiting for this one in one way or the other. I like I told you before we hopped on, this seems to be what people are in it the most for. I don't know if it's like people from my channel only hear me talk about politics. So like
Yeah.
when I could talk about religion and stuff, they're like, yeah, or like I'm sure just religion's like a hot
Yeah.
topic for people to debate. Do you want to go first or do you want to go second? It doesn't make a
I'll
difference.
go second. Let's hear you.
Sounds good. So I tried to, we have three, I guess we'll say for people, we didn't really tee this up very well. We have three each. We're going to go through it kind of like we do claim by claim. It doesn't, it's not as debate spirited, but if we disagree,
Yeah.
we can disagree, obviously. But I tried to layer these as like, from like I guess in chronological order of like what led me away from having faith. And the first one is how religion was introduced to me and the way I used it. It was never as like a moral compass or framework. It was more of like a framework to understand the world around me. And to me, I think religion completely fails at that purpose. And as I like understood science more and became more affluent in research and such, it made religion more pointless for me. Like, because science is the best framework for creating models that can make accurate predictions about the world around us. Like religion's answer for humans is intelligent design, right? And these are every belief I'm going to bring up here. I want to preface by saying these are things I believe because of religion. Like Religion's answer for humans was intelligent design. Science's is evolution. Evolution is true. Religion's answer for life is God. Science's is abiogenesis. Abiogenesis is true. Religion's answer for the universe is God. Science's is, it's different variations of an infinite regress. There's like the Hawkins hurdle proposal, the big bounce, big crunch. But these seem to be true, right? So when it comes to models that make predictions about the world around us, science seems to be something that is of value and religion isn't. And then when that was the utility I had for religion, when that went away, there was no use for me to be religious. That was the first big step.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Obviously, as somebody who also deconverted and also turned atheist at one point, I can relate to some of that. My I was never in either of my traditions when I was a Protestant or now an anti-evolution. I never, like, we always made fun of young Earth creationists and intelligent design type of people who believed that there was no evolution at all. When I was a really young kid, I had trouble grappling with evolution because I was like, what do you mean a monkey? Like what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, bro? That sounds so stupid. But obviously, as I grew and aged and got into science, I began to understand that that was like a total straw man. It's not as if a monkey was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a human now. Like
Yeah.
that's not what happened.
The picture that is associated with evolution is like
Yes.
very misleading.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, he just gets up and boop, 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 boop. Yeah, clearly not what happened. So, yeah, but I would say like at least in traditional Christianity, and by traditional, I don't just mean Catholic. I do mean Catholic because it's 2,000 years old, but I mean any of the apostolic churches, any like Eastern Orthodox, Coptic, Assyrian, and even like traditional Protestants, like Lutherans, anybody who originally came out of the Protestant Reformation, like the 16th century. A lot of those traditions have absolutely no problem with evolution at all. And with the Big Bang, I mean, that was even postulated by a Catholic, I believe a Catholic priest, but it might have just been a Catholic scientist. Because they were thinking about Genesis and when it says "Let there be light," and they were like, "What would that look like?" And then, bang, a big bang, and so that actually maps on quite well with how it's described. So yeah, I wouldn't say that science and religion are opposed. I would say that they serve different functions, and that the church doesn't and shouldn't be making any proclamations about science because that's not its goal or its responsibility.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with some of it and disagree with some of what you said. I don't, for me, it's like, it's not even about those models. I guess first to cover, yeah, it just, I think for some people it matters what religion or what church you grow up around, because obviously it's not like in the Bible that evolution
Right.
is fake, John
Right.
3:15 or whatever, you know?
Right.
But yeah, for me, it was a big smack in the face because I grew up like my entire life. I went to a Christian boarding school, for those who didn't know, like was like fully in it. And I thought like humans walked around with dinosaurs, right? Like I thought
Jeez
like
Louise.
the earth was like 6,000 years old, 6 to 10,000
Yeah.
years old. Like these were all beliefs like I completely had and that I didn't even realize were dumb until like I got into like high school and like after boarding school, like 10th, 11th grade. And I was like, wait a minute, like some of the things that I've been taught maybe don't make sense. And then the more I learned, the more I realized religion doesn't really make accurate predictions about the world, which like I'm not going to reiterate my claim, but to me that just
Yeah.
kind of made it pointless. And then yeah, you can go into what your first one was, or if you wanted to touch on that more or whatever.
Yeah. I guess I'll just say, yeah, I don't know if you do you know if you know who Kent Hovind is. He's yeah. It sounds like you were you were in that kind of
I was in that circle for
that
sure.
circle, and that dude is yeah. So yeah, my first reason that led to me reverting, I guess, would be the historical attestation. So this would be of Jesus and also of the church itself. And so historians will tell you Jesus is one of the best attested figures of the ancient world as far as how many documents and how many things we have about him and his existence. Nobody, atheists or otherwise, doubts the existence of a Jesus. Now, the facts about him are obviously heavily disputed, but that there is somebody at the center of that is like pretty universally undisputed. And if you do dispute it, the consequences are basically throwing out large portions of what we consider to be history. Um, and so another thing about that is like when Paul writes in First Corinthians about a specific creed, we call it the Corinthian Creed. Um, he writes about a creed that historians estimate would have been written within 365 to a year and a half from 33 AD when Christ would have died. So within a year of Christ, um, there's a creed that talks about his death, burial, and resurrection. So this kind of debunks or disproves any idea of like 20 years later it got mythicized or whatever. It's like no, like immediately after they were claiming he resurrected. Um, and then that gets into, okay, well, why were they claiming that? I don't know if you're familiar, but there's Lord, Liar, Lunatic, which are sort of the options of what are the options here with Jesus and what are the options here with the apostles? Why did they die? For this, knowing, they wouldn't have died knowing that it was false. So they at least had to be convinced that it was true, at the very least. And why were they convinced that it was true? And then when it comes to the Catholic Church itself, if you accept that Jesus existed, and then you can accept historical ancient documents as somewhat reliable, then you can see that Jesus had disciples. It's not really disputed that Paul existed. He's also one of the most well attested. It's not really disputed that Peter existed. I think there's like 4 or 5 of the 12 that historians are like, yeah, 100%, those are real people. And those real people appointed successors and taught them. And those people were bishops and appointed, and we have their writings, and their writings talk about obviously Christianity as well and what the beliefs were of the time. And then those people appointed next people and appointed next people, and that goes all the way down through the Catholic Church. And so my thing, even when I was an atheist, was if Christianity is true, the only viable options are the apostolic churches, the ones who were started by Peter, Paul, James, John, Philip, etc., because those were real people. So at the very least, even if it was fake, it's their story to tell, and so that would be like the only reasonable church to be in. So that was a big thing for me, was just realizing that it's not this sort of amorphous. Because I'm sure you grew up similar to I did, where it was basically your church and the Bible. Like whatever you guys want to get from it is whatever y'all want to believe, and that anybody can just start a church, and all you have to do is like go to maybe get trained by a pastor, and then you can maybe start it, or maybe you could just rent out a building and just start one. And realizing that like, no, we can actually trace this back to the person, or at least to his followers, was like huge for me, because that's not how I grew up, knowing that that was traceable. So
Yeah. So again, I don't want to be too like, I don't want to turn it into a debate. But
sure,
just I
no,
guess why the historical stuff never did much for me. And I'm not like a historian by any accounts, but I think that when it comes to evidence, there's obviously different kinds of evidence. There's empirical evidence, there's like philosophical evidence, right? Like syllogisms, then there's like historical evidence. And I
sure,
think like when we're talking about historical evidence, it's like maybe the highest level of scrutiny needed. I'm sure you can maybe fathom a different level, but there's a very high level of scrutiny that's needed with historical evidence that for me, most of what is recounted about Jesus Christ in terms of the mythology of him, like can't talk, I guess, the mythology of him is it kind of falls short. I don't know if you know who Deconstruction Zone is, Justin, with Deconstruction Zone. He's like,
mm-mm.
he does, I don't know, maybe I thought maybe because Kent Hovind, he's done a few debates with Kent
Yeah,
Hovind, but he went to like seminary, he like was like a pastor or whatever the verbiage would be. When he talks about the testimonies, he says that there's not testimonial accounts from when Jesus was alive. Most of them come after his death, which one would kind of call into account the validity of these things. And then also there's other historical resurrections and things that people have believed. And so like the idea that like the apostles believed this or even died for it has never been that convincing to me, because I don't know if you know who King Nero is, right? Or Prince
Mhm.
Nero, whatever he was. He also died, and then famously there were three different people who impersonated him, came back, said he was Nero resurrected and impersonated him. The first person was successful enough that he led, I think it was 2,500 people into battle against an army that was like double their size, and all of them got slaughtered, right? And I would assume that you don't believe that Nero was resurrected. And then there's obviously accounts of resurrection in probably nearly every religion. And I would say that you would probably apply a level of scrutiny to the historical evidence that they use that often you wouldn't apply to that in which applies to Christianity. That's typically what I see when Christians put forth like historical evidence, and that's why it kind of fails for me and why it's never been that convincing.
Yeah, so the Corinthian Creed, like I said, written within a year, talks about his death, burial, and resurrection. So that
After though,
proved, yeah,
after,
one
and then
year.
also I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, it's after, and then I also don't know. I would have to see like, did the person who wrote it have firsthand witness of Jesus's resurrection, or is that a
the,
secondhand
the
account?
creed or the
The person who wrote the Corinthian Creed or whatever a year after, did they actually, the person who
so
wrote it actually saw Jesus resurrect, or they're recounting the story that they heard
yeah, so
a
yeah, no,
year
the
later?
claim is not that the Corinthian Creed is like a contemporary
Yeah,
first like eyewitness
yeah.
account. It's more that we know within one year of his death, people were saying that he died and was buried and was resurrected. And so it's not as if nobody can use the argument that like they made it up like 20 years later. It from
Yeah.
the beginning pretty much. And then as far as contemporary, we do have Peter, John, and some of the ones that historians agree did were alive, and they also testified to this. So we do have eyewitness accounts
So, and
from
this is
them.
again, I'm kind of like walking on eggshells here because I don't
Sure.
like know exactly, but to my understanding, the writings of Paul and these people that's what came hundreds of years after Jesus. Like the
No,
writings
not
that
hundreds
are
of years. No, no, no. Everything in the New Testament was written within like 60 years of Jesus.
sure. I mean, I guess I
But
would be a
the
little bit different. I
epistles,
would even say 60, but yeah, I mean, either way, that still kind of falls into
but
to
they
me, that's
weren't.
just not all that convincing.
That's well, sure, but
People writing about something happening doesn't make it true to me.
no, I agree. It doesn't. I was just saying that it
And
would be.
especially if we're talking about like a resurrection, I feel like something that to our current scientific knowledge is impossible, at least in the
Yeah,
way
yeah, yeah.
I think
No, I
everybody.
totally understand. Which is why obviously there's three of these things and not just
Yeah,
one.
right, yeah, yeah.
It's not
So
like
we don't
history
have to
was
get held up
enough.
too long on
But
this.
I did want to say the point there is just that there are eyewitness accounts. It's just that those eyewitness accounts got written down on paper
Yeah,
later.
right. Which
But the
is
people
to
who wrote
me
them, but
not
that
that
would be
convincing.
because, I mean, obviously, think about the first century. I mean, it's not like everybody had a printer and paper right
No, I
next to
mean
them. It
I
was
get it.
it's
I
not
get
like
it.
that. And so what I'm saying is my understanding, and I'm not a historian either, but from
Yeah.
hearing other historians, even what's the famous atheist one? Oh my gosh. Uh, I can't remember, but he's a defender of Jesus absolutely existed, but he's like a super big atheist guy. He does a lot of debates. I'm sure if I said the name, you would know him. But even it's like you would have to say that these things aren't true. We basically are only going to have like a couple hundred years of history. Then we got to throw out everything because all of it
Well, no.
has even weaker attestation than what I'm
I
talking
think
about.
different things have different levels of belief, and I just think history in general, we should be hesitant to believe. Like I said, I think historical
That's
evidence
fine if you want
takes
to
the
throw out
highest
history. You
weighting.
can throw out history.
I
I'm just
don't think
saying.
that's what I said, but okay.
Well, you said we should be scrutinizing it, and
We
so
should be
what I'm saying is
skeptical of historical accounts. Yeah. I think there's a
what
high
I'm not
level
saying.
of proof necessary for
Let me
historical
put one last word on this one and then we'll go to your second one. Because what I'm saying is not that we should believe that there was a resurrection based off of historical, but what we should believe and what's not really disputable, unless we're going to get rid of a lot of history, is that there were followers of a guy named Jesus who believed that he died, was buried, and was resurrected
Oh
and
yeah,
didn't make
yeah.
that
I
shit up
believe all of
later,
that.
but that they believed it immediately.
Well, I believe that there was a person named Jesus and that he probably was killed. Yeah. I believe that. I know that
Yes,
that is,
and his
even though I know
followers
that
wrote
some
about
of
it.
that is contested, with the being hung on a cross at least and things. But again, not a historian, don't
Sure,
necessarily
sure,
get
sure,
into
sure.
it. My only
So
thing is,
yeah,
and just to leave my pin on it, it's not that I think it's like bad that this is a bad reason. It's just I feel I would need convinced by something else,
yes,
then maybe
me
I could
too,
accept the
me
historical
too,
stuff. But
and I was.
yeah, there you go. So then my next one was, I guess, after the first, and I started kind of moving away, I kind of grew to see the moral system in religion, which me and you went back and forth on a million times, as rather immoral or unethical. I think it kind of blooms from it being largely incompatible with the way that I would evaluate actions. I've always leaned more towards utilitarianism. I'm kind of annoying using, I think it's annoying using Philbro terms. I've always considered myself a particularist, which means that I don't fully conform to the total belief of any label, right? So like I lean towards utilitarianism. Sometimes I think it fails, but like when you look at things like same-sex couples produce equal or better outcomes to normal couples, I don't think it's justified to discriminate against them because like God says so. When women do just as good of a job in leadership positions, I don't see a reason to discriminate against them in the church or leading the church because God said so. And then even to like the utility in actions, right? When prayer is statistically useless, I don't really see a reason to do it. And then the last one I added was kind of funny. I actually don't know what you think of it, but don't get me started on speaking in tongues because everyone
Oh.
who speaks in tongues is lying. I don't care. Nobody speaks in tongues. Everyone's lying who does it. They're all faking. And I don't see any point in faking doing something to pretend you have some connection with God.
So speaking in tongues,
You think it's fake too, right? You don't actually believe
well,
you do it.
first, it's based on a misunderstanding of what it even meant in scripture. So speaking in tongues, tongues is languages. So it's not some secret. It's what happened, or at least what scripture records happened, is more like um, and I want to say I might be pulling this out of my ass, but I want to say that this has happened to people where they've gotten like brain damage and they start speaking Spanish. It's more like that. That's what actually tongues was in scripture, was that the apostles spoke in such a way that if you were a Mexican in the crowd who spoke Spanish, I should clarify that, and in a American who speaks English, you both understood the sermon despite having different languages. That's what speaking in tongues was. Somehow, some way, it
Which is
became
also just
some
impossible.
secret. It's still far more reasonable than.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'm
Like
glad you
that
agree
is
that
like
everyone who does that is also lying.
absolutely insane. I mean, just ask anybody who used to be that. They'll literally tell you, like, I didn't want to look like a loser, so I just
Yeah.
started doing it, man.
Yeah.
Like they'll all tell you that is the case. And it doesn't even make sense. Like, what would be the point of a secret like what would be the point? Because it says in scripture that some people's gift was the languages and some people's gift was the translation. But if you go to what it is today, nobody can freaking translate that
Yeah.
crap. It's just blah, 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 blah.
And I,
So
dude,
it's like, what
when I
even
went
is
to
the point?
when I went to boarding school, there used to be adults who would come up around us kids and they would like
Yes.
convulse and just be like, blah, 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 and I'd be like, what is going on? Right? And this was like, I was like a full on Christian at that point. And I'm like looking around like,
Yes, me too, dude. Yes, mine wasn't quite that charismatic, but I remember some lady. We were at like a church camp thing, and it was the last night, and so all the adults were there with the kids. And I remember preacher was preaching, and some lady came running up and down the aisles. I wasn't paying attention because I was a teenager. I like, shot out of my, it scared the crap out of me, dude. And she's like running and she knocked over a plant and like dirt got every, it's a
yeah,
vivid memory. But yeah, no, we don't do anything like that, bro. We think it's cringe to like raise your hand. I'm sure you saw
yeah,
people like
yeah.
during praise music. Like we don't do any. Yeah, we don't do anything like that at a Catholic church. Like we think that that's all spiritualist, superstitious nonsense. Gobbledygook. So I'm with you there. I spent so long on the tongues, I kind of forget what the rest of your.
Morality.
Oh yeah, morals. Okay, yeah. Here I'm not gonna have too much of a disagreement with you because this was part of um, why I deconverted as well was I always pinpoint 2014 when gay marriage was legalized, and watching everyone melt down and lose their minds at my church over this happening. And I'm thinking, I know a couple gay guys at my school. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, like, people are dying. Like, I didn't really get the whole uh, thing. Now, there was the slippery slope argument, and here's what will diverge. I think there was some warrant there because we have gone further in the LGBT direction since then. So that wasn't, whether or not they should be worried about that is a different thing, but they were at least correct that we would go from gay marriage to then trans to then people wearing freaking dog suits and stuff. Like, we would start to see that stuff more in public, and we have. That is true. Um, but yeah, I can't really tell you that uh, your moral convictions don't seem legitimate to you, because of course they do. So I can't really say much on that.
So yeah, you can go ahead to your next one.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit in DMs. The second reason for me was tag the transcendental argument. I had been convinced as an atheist that the universe itself or existence itself or something to that degree had to be eternal. Otherwise, there could never be anything to begin with. There had to be something always for there to ever be something, or else you couldn't go from nothing to something. That would be like magic to me. And so there always had to be something. And so that I was locked in just from logic that something eternal exists. It has to. It's just, there's no other way. Um, and so at some point, I think every worldview has to explain existence itself. How is there anything? And if your view is that, well, there was once nothing and then there was something, that's just like incomprehensible. Like I said, that's literally magical thinking. And so that was a big thing for me. Was I started arguing against theists, saying, well, it's just existence itself. It's just, the universe. When I don't mean the universe as in our local presentation, I mean, what all one, everything that is exists, whether that was in the form of matter eternally or energy eternally. I kind of went into the energy realm myself. Since energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it seemed to me, okay, then energy is eternal, and everything came from energy. But studying the classic literature, St. Thomas Aquinas, and all of that, I came to find that essentially just is the Christian conception of God to begin with. I am that I am, which means being. I am being itself. And so that just is what Yahweh is the ground of all that exists. And so I think that essentially everyone to some degree has to believe in God, whether they want to label it that or not. They have to agree that there is something eternal that subsists and from which everything else must follow.
No, that actually kind of does go into my next one. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so debative to all yours when I feel like
I
you have
mean,
something else in
obviously we're
mind.
on opposite ends of this.
Right. I
Of
think tag is just God of the gaps. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but it's
course.
essentially just arguing from incredulity or ignorance. I think, in my opinion, I can't explain X, so X must be God, which is just not convincing to me. I think that it's kind of one of the lamer arguments. I don't mean to say that like disrespectfully to you or anything. That's like one of the least convincing arguments to me, though. And also in terms of what you said, kind of about everyone has to believe in a God or whatever. I do think everyone needs to believe in something eternal, but I think that there's core differences between that and God, in that God has a mind. At least most people would suppose there's a mind for God. And then God is also typically put forth as outside of time, outside of space and time, right? And then
Well, that's the definition of eternal.
well, sure, I guess I would say that time itself has always existed, would be
Well, time
my
began with the Big Bang.
that's not true. That our understanding of time,
Blank time began with the Big Bang.
we just can't
Space.
measure, we just can't measure prior to the Big Bang. But that doesn't mean that time began at the Big Bang.
My understanding is every major scientist is going to say time began at the point of the Big Bang.
No, 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 for sure. No. Time began to be measurable at the point of the Big Bang, but the Big Bang only claims one thing, and it's that the universe was in a hot, dense state and then it rapidly expanded. Everything else,
Hey, stop singing the song, man.
yeah, sorry, but everything else from the Big Bang is kind of like intuitively applied to it, right? Like a lot of people, and this is another common misconception with the Big Bang, is people think that scientists put the Big Bang as the beginning of the universe. And some people think that it is, but cosmology, modern cosmology, the consensus is that it wasn't the Big Bang. The Big Bang wasn't the start. For instance, there's like the Hawking's hurdle proposal. This was as the no boundaries proposal. This was back in the 80s, which essentially was that we were in a I don't know how to explain it the right way. Mass energy was in a different state without boundary. The Big Bang happened, which then created this boundary, which allowed for space and time to be measured in a closed system. Quantum physics and mechanics get really complicated, but there's like tons of explanations for it and tons that don't put the Big Bang as the start of time or the universe. So yeah, to me, the tag argument has always just been kind of like, I don't understand science and I don't want to do the work looking into cosmology, so God.
So yeah, I would say tag isn't science at all. It's philosophical, and it is what is it that allows for there to be anything at all? What is the answer to that question? And
Right.
the answer
And I
seemingly
don't know
by
God.
it's not I don't know, it's deductive reasoning. It must be eternal because it has to have been there always for anything else to ever come. Again, because if there was nothing, then there could never be nothing. So this thing is eternal. So that marks off outside of space and time. Check one box for God. That's already checked. It has to be.
No, no, and
So
actually,
you believe
would be
that
a
there was nothing
contradiction.
and magic happened.
I believe
See what
that
I'm
there was
saying?
nothing and then magic happened.
That's
No,
what I'm asking.
no,
But so
I
you agree
disagree.
that there was something always.
Yes, time.
Okay, well then time would be eternal. That's
Well, if
fine.
eternal means outside of time, then no.
Well,
I
time
think that
it's
time infinitely regresses. I think it
sure.
infinitely
Yes.
goes both ways. And this
There's
is the B theory of
yes.
time.
There's these
This is the
eternity.
B
Yes.
theory of time. Like we have a pretty good
Yes.
understanding of this,
Sure.
which is the leading theory right now.
Yes,
A
sir.
theory has kind of been defeated. So like in B theory of time would put forth that time infinitely goes both ways. There is no starting point. There was no
Yes.
nothing and there is no
Exactly.
conception. There's no begin. So there is no what made it begin or what allowed it. It's
Not
infinitely
yeah,
going
not
both
what
ways.
allowed it to begin. What I mean is whatever the first I'm going to use the word thing.
There's no first.
When I say first thing, I mean first
There is no first. It's a
there
misconception.
I mean there has to be a first.
There doesn't.
No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. When I say thing, I mean like this. You can't see it because of the green screen. I'm holding a can, like a thing, an object.
Yeah.
Whatever allowed for there to be a first object. I'm not talking about first thing of all everything. I mean, something made it so that we could have iron and carbon. And where does iron and carbon come from? That's that. What I mean is, we couldn't have iron or carbon if we didn't already have eternality. Correct? We would
No.
have to have what? We would have to have
No.
like
Those
the
causes,
ability for existence has to
right,
has to
which
be there.
has to exist within time, and time has just always existed. So that is all happening within time.
Yes,
So
I'm saying
none of that is eternal. None of that proves a God. None of that is outside.
I think you're completely misunderstanding the argument, to be honest. I think the argument is there there can be nothing at all unless there is time. You agree?
There can be nothing unless there's time.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true, but probably.
Well, you're saying time is eternal. What I'm saying is, how is it that there is a laptop that I'm using right now? What explains its existence
Oh, because of causality.
ultimately?
Yeah,
But why do we have causality? Because of
it's a
time.
property
We
of
can
time.
have exactly. So time, for you, it just all goes back to time. That's fine. But that means it all goes back to one thing, which is time. It has to. There can't be anything before time because that doesn't even make sense as a sentence, right? Before
Yes.
time.
Right.
So
Which is
so
kind of what is a fail of your God concept.
that is our God concept, though, is that there can't be anything before whatever you want to call it. X. We'll call it before X. You can call it time, whatever. There can't be anything prior to that logically, and all other things of existence are predicated on
But-
that. And that is what we mean by God created everything, because
Right.
everything is predicated on that
So then what
initial
created God?
it's time. It has to exist. It's necessity.
Okay.
Is time necessity?
Time is a necessity, yeah, but I don't get how that
So
gets
there you
you to
go. So
God.
nothing
That
created
doesn't get
it.
you to God.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know what God is. That is God. That is
No.
what we mean.
Does God have a mind?
No,
God doesn't have a mind.
no.
Is God all knowing?
God is all knowing
So then how are you all knowing without a mind?
because all knowledge exists as a follow through of that initial thing being the bedrock of everything. That's what we mean.
That doesn't something can cause something to happen and have no knowledge of that.
All knowledge
I could
is a
leave something at
result.
my house. I could leave something at my house that then causes my girlfriend to come home and step on it and break her foot. And I could have
Yeah,
no knowledge that that
it's
happened,
part of
even though
it's
I'm the
part of the
reason.
language. What I'm saying is
It just doesn't follow. But
all knowledge exists because of time. Would you agree?
all knowledge exists because of time. I don't know. No, I don't know if knowledge.
Without time, there would be no knowledge. That's a better way to say it. And you would have to say yes.
I
That's
don't
what we mean
know.
by the all knowing, and that's what we
There
mean by all
is time
powerful.
and time is necessary, right?
And yes, and
I
as
don't know if
a
time is necessary for knowledge.
well, how could there be knowledge if there's no time? Then there's nothing if there's no time, as you had already said. We have nothing without time.
Well,
So this is
that's
what I'm
a
saying.
proposal, but also you like, I mean,
It's a logical necessity is that there's something. We already well, either way, we can go on. But that's why tag has it almost has nothing to do with science whatsoever.
right,
It's
but it just fails, I think, in my opinion. I'd
I
almost like
mean,
to
you
stop.
basically conceded it, but it's fine.
You literally know it. No, I
Yes, because
didn't.
you're saying time exists eternally, and
And
everything that we have now,
that's B
laptops,
theory of time.
wars,
That's B theory of time
everything that exists
because
could
of
not be
chemical
here,
processes. They're here
could
because of
not
chemical processes that happened within time. It
ultimately,
doesn't have anything to
ultimately,
do because of time.
ultimately, those chemical processes owe their existence to
And
time.
nor is time all knowing. Time doesn't know anything.
Again, all knowledge. Again, that's just your understanding, all knowing of human
It's just
knowledge.
a category error of knowledge. But
It's
yeah, we
just
can move on
word
to
concept
remind me
fallacy.
because I don't think we probably won't get to the debate, low key. I don't.
That's
Because
fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we're already at like an
yeah,
hour, and both of us have one more of these to go. So,
yeah. Okay, let's do your
um,
next one.
yeah. So the last one I feel like is the one you'll probably have the most disagreements with. It actually kind of ties into what we were talking about. Also, most God concepts just fail to me. So like outside of even just religion, I don't think, at least from most concepts of God I've heard, I don't even think God's real. Most God concepts lead to logical contradictions. Contradictions can't exist. God can't be all knowing and us have free will. That would mean he created us knowing everything we would do, making it predetermined. Options don't mean free will. If you put a ball in a machine that spins with red and black colors, it has options, but it doesn't have free will on choosing what color it lands on. God being all knowing and necessary would make all truths necessary. If he knows everything, he would also know contingent truths. That would make contingent truths necessary. That would violate the law of identity. That's a contradiction. Again, contradictions can't exist. If God is eternal, he exists outside of space and time, meaning he can't cause anything. To cause something, you have to come before or simultaneous to it. If you're outside of space and time, you can't cause anything. And there's more. There's like, depending on what someone's God concept is, there's almost always a contradiction that is entailed from it. And because of that, to me, it's like, and I mean, I think like if you're just going God of the Bible, it's even easier. Like most people have to go to these like super like philosophical ideas of God because like the God concept in the Bible fails even easier. And so to me, it like, one, there's these varying concepts of God, even within the same religion, people will have different concepts, and all of them seem to fail. And we have strong scientific explanations for things that God seems to stand in place for: the beginning of the universe, the creation of life, how humans came to be. I've had no reason to buy into it. I don't see a reason to. So like that's the strongest reason after leaving religion that I haven't gone back.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not very well versed on predestination and double predestination and stuff like that. That's St. Thomas Aquinas writes quite a lot about that. And I'm honestly not super educated on that aspect of Christianity.
Right, but I mean, it's
Um,
logically necessary that that would be a contradiction. If God is all knowing, we can't have free will. So if
well,
we
yeah,
have free will and God is all knowing, that's a contradiction. Contradictions can't exist, which would disprove
like
that
I
God
said,
concept.
I think it's predicated on a misunderstanding of what all knowing means. But also, what I would say is like I think you brought up God of the gaps again. Like I say, God concepts and whatnot. For me, it comes down to there's two beliefs you can have. There was nothing, and then there was something, or there was something, then there was something else. The second one, that something, we're just calling it God. End of story. End of
It's just not true.
that's but you don't get to decide what God is to us. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
So it
it's
doesn't
not
matter
even,
what you
that's not
think.
even the majority belief in Catholicism. A
That
mind
is
with
the
God. God has a mind. Show me anywhere in Catholic doctrine that says God does not have a mind, and I'll concede right now. Because
I
that's,
mean,
you
I
just
don't
made
have my
that up.
stuff. I
That
didn't
you
make it
just
up.
pulled out of your ass.
God is he
God
doesn't
has a mind by every
no,
definition
no,
of
no,
people
no,
who believe
no,
it.
no.
Show
He
me any
doesn't
Catholic doctrine that agrees with you.
no, because
Show me
it's like
one. Show me one Catholic doctrine that
I
agrees with that
can.
God
I
doesn't have
can.
a mind.
St.
Show me it.
Thomas I don't have it up
What
here,
is it?
bro.
I'll look it up right now. What is it?
I mean, you could have to look up the Summa Theologiae of St. Thomas Aquinas, but we're talking about like academic long ass research papers, basically. But the point is that God is being. So he's not a being with
Right.
a mind. He is being. He
That's a
is
claim.
mind. He
Claim.
is these things. Those are the claims, but I'm saying that that is our conception. So it's not that he has a mind or he
Right.
has or he is a being. It would be that he's identical to those things, mind and being.
Right.
So that's not the same. That's why it's a fundamental misunderstanding that comes from Protestantism, who has
He is
invented a
mind.
demiurge
Right.
that is basically Zeus, who is the old
Again,
man in the sky, and
none
that's
of
just
this
not what any
disproves
of
the
us believe.
contradiction, though. None of this disproves the contradiction.
Well, I already said I wouldn't be able to. I said I don't have the
I know, well,
information.
because logic is objective. And again,
No,
that
I
God
said I don't
concept
have
fails,
the
which is fine.
information. I
There
haven't
could be
studied
other
it.
God concepts that don't, but that God concept absolutely fails because logic is objectively objective and necessary and
No, because
true.
you plugged in false premises, but it's okay.
No, what's the
Um,
false primacy? God is
that
all knowing, right?
that knowledge is like human knowledge. You got to erase that from your.
God is all knowing, right?
Yes, but you got to erase
Okay,
that.
do we have free will?
Not all knowing,
Do
as
we have
in
free will?
all knowing
Do
is
we have
not.
free will?
No, I reject. I
So we
reject your
don't have
assert.
free will.
I reject your assertion of God
So
is
we
all
don't.
knowing, being like I know you're on the computer right now. That's
God
not
is
what we
a
mean.
mind and he's all
That's not
knowing.
what. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Well,
You're just straw manning. I mean, you're just making lies about the religion. So that's
I mean,
fine.
if you want to reject Catholic doctrine, that's
It's
fine.
not. Who's the Catholic here, brother? Who went through
Show
classes,
me
brother?
anywhere in Catholic doctrine that says
I
God doesn't
already
have a mind.
told
I
you.
would love to know
I
that.
already told you. St. Thomas Aquinas.
Sure. What do I look up to find that? I'll look it up right now where he's ever said that. Does
Look
Saint
up.
Thomas
Look up.
say God doesn't have a mind?
Look up. Is God a mind or does he have a
No,
mind?
Saint Thomas Aquinas explicitly says God does have mind and will, but not in the discursive sense. So he has a mind, just not in the way that
you're
you do. So he has a mind.
which is what you're
Explicitly stated. He
yes,
has
but
a
you're
mind,
thinking but
which
you
means that
are
he has
thinking of
knowledge. He's all knowing, right?
no, you're
He's all
thinking of it
knowing.
in
He
the
has a
human way.
mind.
That's the
We
problem.
have free will. Does
All right.
Saint Thomas think we have free will?
Uh yes, but I'm not exactly sure. That's why I said I don't know his double predestination. He has a specific view. I just haven't looked into it. I know it's similar to Calvinism because Calvinists don't believe we do, and his is very close to Calvinism, but not. And I'm
Yeah,
not
so he does
sure.
think we have free will. So that is
Yes, I know. That's what I said. But it's
his
close to
God concept
Calvinism.
fails. Logic is
No,
objective. Logic
this is
is
just
necessary. Logic
let the
is
record
true.
show that you're
Logic
not
is
even taking
demonstratable.
any effort into understanding what we mean by these terms and just going with your preconceived notions. But it's
Well,
fine.
I just ChatGPT what you said, and it seems like you were wrong. He does think
It
God has
was
a mind, so it seems like what I said was right.
look up does God have a mind or is God mind or identical to mind? Because God doesn't have properties. We would teach I forget what's called simplicity. There he has no properties. I forget what it's called. Something simplicity. Divine simplicity. So he doesn't have properties. So he doesn't have a mind. He isn't good. He is good, like goodness.
So very specifically in the thing you're quoting, Summa Theologia, he says, it must be said that in God there is knowledge to the highest degree. So he does think God has knowledge
Yes,
in
I
this
know.
mind that you are saying doesn't exist. He does, right?
You're just
And he says
wording
free
it.
will
It's
exists.
just a wording issue. It's fine.
It's not. I mean, it's the exact
it
word.
is.
I just pulled it
Do you
up
understand
right
the? Do you
I just put it
understand?
up right
Okay.
here.
Answer my question here. Do you understand the difference between I am a good person and I am good, as in I am identical to the word good? Do you understand
What's
those two
what's
differences?
the I don't think what's the difference in that? That's analogous here.
So if I am good, that's me. I'm still Shua, and I'm acting as in accordance with what goodness is.
Yeah,
Whereas being goodness is being what goodness is, like being goodness.
right.
Do you understand the delineation
I
there?
understand that, but how does it disprove
So that's what
Thomas
I'm saying with
in
mind.
Thomas saying in
That's what
God there is knowledge. In God there is
it
knowledge to the highest degree. So within
it's
God's mind
language.
there is knowledge.
I'm just
God
saying
has a mind that has knowledge. It's to the highest degree because he's all
he
knowing.
doesn't
And we
have
have
the
free
mind, he
will.
is mind, but
That's
it's okay.
catastrophic. It's catastrophic to that God concept.
No, you just don't understand, but it's okay. Let's move on to
Okay.
my third one.
Okay. Yeah.
This one you're not gonna agree with mostly, probably, but I don't know. So truth, beauty, and goodness are the three cardinal virtues in Catholicism. Um, so I found that to be compelling as three uh, core parts of existence that we all recognize as humans. That truth, goodness, and beauty exist. Um, and so the church to me isn't a church that is afraid of the truth or reason. We're known as, we have a whole period of history called the scholastics. This is where we get stuff like even the Big Bang. This is where we get stuff. A lot of the sciences and stuff come from out of here. Our beauty, obviously, our cathedrals, the art, the liturgy, and then when it comes to goodness, this can kind of go with truth as well. We have like all the universities, the modern university, the modern hospital, all the charities we do, all the money that we give, all the people that we help, etc. And then they give me a moral framework that seemed to make sense of everything in existence to me. Mainly that God was the logos, the logic, and if something makes sense, it's of God logically, and that logic is identical um, to God, and that that is the second person of the Trinity. And it seemed to just explain everything that I experience in life, and that thankfully the Catholic Church isn't a fundamentalist church, so we acknowledge fully that everything in the Bible and all the words that we use, which is the part that you won't accept, is anagogical, and that we are using only the best words that we know how, and that all of them are inaccurate to what is actually being described. And so if we say, for instance, that an angel visited, you might picture some dude with wings coming in to talk to somebody, but it might not have been anything like that whatsoever. It might have instead have been like in their mind, in a dream, in a whatever, a flash of light. It just means a messenger. It might have just been, it could have been anybody. It could have been a regular human giving a message. And that we have that freedom to actually interpret that more openly, and it doesn't commit us to certain dogmatic and fundamentalist beliefs that some of the other traditions get into, like young earth creationism or anything like that. I don't have to, just because it says the world was created in 6 days, I don't have to take that to mean six 24-hour cycles. One, because God didn't even create the sun yet, so there wouldn't have been, you know, if we're going to take it literally, which no uh, intelligent scholar is going to do that, biblical scholar. There wasn't even a sun yet, so there can't be 24-hour days. I'm able to take that as a metaphor, and to see that he's communicating theological truths rather than scientific truths. And so that was another piece that led to my conversion, was realizing that it wasn't this dogmatic fundamentalist sect.
Yeah, words just don't mean what words mean. And then you can say whatever you want, I guess. Yeah, oh, I don't know. I think I maybe have the least problem with that one. I looked at some of these things though, because you said about not being dogmatic. And I know for a fact throughout
Well,
history, the
sure,
Catholic
we have
Church
dogmas.
the Catholic Church has made some pretty crazy denials of pretty obvious scientific truths like heliocentrism. Did not think that the earth revolved around the sun, but
Yeah, but we were never bound to believe such a thing, is what I'm saying.
well, okay. I mean, whatever. You, you guys denied it in a
Okay, yeah, but you
that
say you guys. Let's be clear. The entire world denied it for a while. It's not
Yeah,
like
well, Galileo was tried by the church and the Inquisition was in the Inquisition for proposing heliocentrism. Same with deep time, like the Catholic Church also at one point thought that the Earth was thousands of years old. And then the last thing you said that I thought was kind of weird was that logic comes from God. God is like
God
definition
is
is
equivalent to
definitionally
logic.
illogical, right? And
Again, that's
logic,
what you don't understand about our position.
right?
Logic is God. That is God.
If you think the Trinity exists, right, that's illogical. But
It's not illogical, but
it,
that's a
so then how
different.
doesn't the Trinity violate the law of identity?
How does it?
Three people who are one people, one person.
No, three persons who are one being. But again,
Right,
that's because
right.
of
Law of
what.
identity. But
No. The best way to understand that is there's 8 billion people who are all human.
right,
What
right.
we mean by being is the human part, what
Yeah,
our essence is, what we are. And because
right.
God's essence is being itself,
Right. Except it's not that simple in how the Trinity
it's
is
quite that simple.
it's literally not, but okay. Yeah, the Trinity is the same as human beings. They come together. Human beings can come together as one thing,
No.
just like the Trinity does.
There's only
And
one human nature. Would you
right.
agree? It's being a human.
No.
It's okay. There's 5 types of humans. I didn't realize that.
I think that nature is cultural, and I don't think there is a human nature. I think that that's a
Yes, there
ridiculous statement.
is. What do you
I
mean?
think
We
nature
are born with 2 arms, 2 legs. There's like
no, we're not. Not everyone.
a
Not
blue,
everyone's born with two
the
legs.
human blueprint, whatever you want to
Not
call it.
everyone's born with that.
Yeah,
But also
and we call
logic,
that a defect.
logic is necessary because difference exists. Logic doesn't come from God. Logic comes from difference itself. But yeah, I don't know. That's the what I had.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So whatever you guys think, let us know. We went through this year. We went through next year. We went through why we converted. We were going to debate, but we got a little.
Maybe we'll just do a debate for the first episode of the new year, like just
Maybe
a full actual debate again,
that'll be that could be something.
unless
And
something spicy is happening.
yeah, exactly. With Trump, you never know. But again, Happy New Year's, guys, since we forgot to say that.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And so Spotify, YouTube, the website, that's where we are. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you add us to our playlist wherever you're listening. And until next time, peace.